This is my final project for EdTech 650. I'm Sarah Aldridge, reflecting on my learning over the course of this semester. The first thing I'd like to talk about is the learning model ACOT that we learned about, the Apple Classrooms of Tomorrow. So this is a really interesting model to learn about. As an instructional designer, I see people progressing through these stages or at different places in these stages, but I didn't know very much about the model. So it was really good to see that and learn more about the process of entry, adoption, adaptation, which I think is the stage that I see the most from the iLearn Center is the adoption and adaptation stages. I really see a lot of faculty members growing in how fluent they are and changing as how well they're comfortable with their technology, but also starting to notice a change in their students. And it's really encouraging to see that. I get to see it from time to time, and it's always good to see. So the ACOT model is really interesting. Finally, appropriation and invention, which I feel like is sort of where I come in a lot of these things, is helping with the appropriation and teachers growing more confident in their skills to try new things. That's the goal. And finally, invention. How can we work together and be creative with technology? So this is a really good model to learn about. Another learning model that was very interesting to learn about was SAMR, just to look at the different stages in which people learn about how to do technology and ways that it can fit into their classroom. I think that substitution is generally the one that I push the most for novices. And we saw this a few years ago in a big project where people were being encouraged to move away from Scantron. So it was straight substitution. How can we make Blackboard tests instead of Scantron tests? But it's also nice to see augmentation, things such as iClicker, or instead of using what we've always done, you raise your hand or you vote with a ballot, something like that. People are using iClickers instead, or even just traditional quizzes using iClickers instead. So integrating technology into their classroom. And finally, modification and redefinition. So redesign our tasks. And finally, redefinition. How do we create new tasks? So both of these are important parts of the SAMR model. And it's helpful because especially when a person goes from a face-to-face classroom to online, I think there's a lot of redefinition that happens or needs to happen. And in some cases it doesn't happen, and those tend to be weaker online classes, but ones where we can really move from modification to redefinition are very rewarding to see. The next concept I'd like to talk about is problem-based learning, or inquiry-based learning. It was really good to hear more about ill-defined problems and what it's like to collaborate, ask higher-order questions, look for multiple solutions, and provide students with multiple ways of representing what they have learned. So just looking at different ways to spark curiosity in students and encourage them to find their own answers. And I think something that is maybe implicit but very important is not only to find their own answers, but to want their own answers. So I think that's part of our job as educators, is to encourage students to want to seek their own answers. So the problem-based learning project is really helpful in redefining my view of that. And next time I teach Com 375, I'm definitely going to use my problem-based learning project in that because my goal really is to encourage students to be curious and to have that sense of inquiry and try to figure out what they don't know. So I hope to use this next time. Digital storytelling is also a very important concept we learned about this semester. This is something that I do a little bit of in my work, but I didn't really know the intricacies of it. I didn't understand exactly all the things that go into it. The 7 questions of digital storytelling: point of view, dramatic question, emotional content, voice, soundtrack, economy, and pacing, I think are a very good way to present this concept. I'm not entirely sure that I had a grasp before this class on what exactly it would look like for those 7 questions to be enacted. So it's been really helpful, or rather the 7 elements of digital storytelling. So it's really been helpful to learn more about that and unpack that and how that can inform us as educators for things to presenting information for our students, but also encouraging them to create digital stories and digital artifacts. TPAC has been really the backbone of everything I've done for this class. I really enjoyed learning about that. I think that TPAC, if you look at it on the Venn diagram that was shown in our textbook, is just a very helpful model because so often we see a PCK or sometimes just a TPK, but it's really helpful to see people who are incorporating technology, pedagogy, and content. It's honestly the most encouraging thing you can find when you see an instructor who's incorporating all of those, the dynamic transactional relationship between pedagogical content knowledge, technological content knowledge, and technological pedagogical content knowledge. It's just really good to see the interaction of all those, and also how difficult it can be to achieve that. But as an instructional designer, it definitely helps me to frame how I can help develop faculty in the TPAC model. So essentially, you have a group of faculty who are very tech savvy, but sometimes they don't have the pedagogy to go with it. You have another group that are just absolutely experts in their content area, but they may not have the technological skills to accompany it. So really figuring out how can I support faculty best to achieve that TPAC idea. So a few ideas I have are, first of all, collaboration. We all have gaps, we all have places where we're weak, but how can I collaborate better with faculty to help them build those transferable skills? Especially faculty who are content and pedagogical experts. Those are my favorite people to work with because the technology integration, usually I'm able to help them with that or help them think outside the box with that. But the content knowledge is just priceless, so it's good to see faculty members who are really willing to take a risk. And I would say that's another key is encouraging faculty members to take a risk. The best faculty members I've worked with are the ones who are willing to try something and have it fail for the sake of good quality teaching. So it's always nice to see those. So TPAC can really inform me as I go forward with my faculty development efforts or as I go forward in designing courses to figure out different methods for helping faculty members design strong courses. So moving forward, there are a few takeaways that really stuck with me this semester. One is the importance of access. I think that sometimes I didn't consider access and how key it can be. I think I made the assumption, since I spend most of my days on the college campus, that that is the student's paradigm. But there are so many students who are solely online, who may be coming from different areas and have different types of advantages and disadvantages. I'm very sensitive to this when it comes to iPads in the classroom or bring your own device type of systems. Granted, we have some ways to help students with that on campus, but that's something that I'd like to think of multiple, avenues and ways to promote access. Another has to do with accessibility in terms of students who have a disability. If a solution doesn't work in some sense for every student, it doesn't work. So can we think of equal opportunities? It's very frustrating when you see an activity that works well, but some students can't use it, and so an instructor says, well, just skip that part, it's not important. Because the message you're sending is, this piece of what I'm teaching you is really not important. So my question would be, why are you doing it at all then? And so thinking of equal and fair alternatives are really important. Am I saying you should leave out any item of your class that not every student can use equally? No. But I think you can find alternatives for an equal experience for different students. For example, I have a teacher who has a game that we've designed together, a computer game that she's made. However, for a student who has a visual impairment, this would be really difficult to use. However, I think it's important that she provide a plain text that is screen reader friendly. It has the exact same content and you progress through it in the same order. That way, both students are having a good experience and they're building pedagogical foundation. One is just without all the bells and whistles. So this is an example of the important type of access. Another thing I'd like to do moving forward is really keep the ACOT model in mind with the types of needs faculty have at each stage. That was a really interesting reading about emotional support, adoption, how they need emotional support and technological assistance. For adaptation, it's all those things plus instructional sharing. And then for appropriation and invention, it's emotional support, technological assistance, instructional sharing, and collaboration. So how can I best support faculty members by diagnosing the stage where they are in technology or in the specific technologies that are being used? And how can I support them moving forward? So this is really helpful for my job. I grew a lot as a result of the course this semester. I really enjoyed it. It was so good to put scholarly work with some concepts I've been doing already in my job and some that I have not. So I got a lot of new ideas and I really grew a lot as a result of this course. I look forward to the future and different items that I will incorporate into my daily life as I'm seeking to design courses and help with faculty development. So this has been a great course. I look forward to more and I appreciate it.